LZ Granderson. I haven't heard from him yet. I know he's got a lot of thoughts on what we've been seeing unfold here in the United States over these past few days, especially last night, and the statements that we've heard from the political leadership today. LZ, what's going through your mind right now as we just heard from the governor of New York, the governor of Minnesota, the mayors of St. Paul and Minneapolis, among others?
Well, first of all, it's good to see you again, Wolf. I was really stuck by Governor Cuomo's statement that violence is not the answer. And I was stuck there not because I don't agree with it, but because I always hear it in relationship to people protesting or sometimes rioters following an act of violence. I never really hear violence is not the answer before that. I don't hear it directed towards the police department. I don't hear it directed towards law enforcement, security guards. I only hear it in response to after violence has been committed. Black people are told violence is not the answer. Black people are told you're supposed to turn the other cheek. Black people are told you're supposed to be better than this. But you don't hear a great deal of people being told this in the direction of from an official to the police department or to the larger white community as a whole. I'm not picking at scabs here, but the reality is that it's always been incumbent upon black people and minorities to solve white racism. It's always been incumbent upon black people to be the better man, to be the better woman, to be the better person. I really would like to see the governors talk to the communities that are standing on the sideline being non-racist as opposed to anti-racist. There's a difference. Non-racist allows you to say it wasn't me and pretend as if the system doesn't impact you or better yet benefit you. Anti-racist is acknowledging the benefits of being white in America, some of the disadvantages of being a minority in America, being disgusted by it, and then actually putting words into action. Those are two different things. We have this clamoring desire to return to normal. Well, let the FBI statistics tell you what normal looks like. Normal is getting a person of color committing a crime, suffering a longer sentence than his white counterpart. Normal is every significant socioeconomic measurement being significantly better in favor of our white counterparts. That's normal. We don't want normal. We want to be better than normal. So as long as we continue to be hung up on this notion that we need to get back to normal, or that we need peace and quiet, as if there was ever peace, we may have had an uneasy quiet, but we've never had a peace, Wolf. This country was started with genocide. This country was built in slavery. This country has a system in which it continues to place minorities at the foot of their white counterparts. That's not peace. You may have quiet, but you don't have peace. So as long as we continue to characterize this conversation through those parameters, unfortunately, I feel as if we're going to continue to be on a hamster wheel with there being an unjustified murder, protest, violence, perhaps rioting, moment of uneasy quiet, and then we do this all over again.
All right, stand by, LZ, because these are significant. There was a lot of that of New Orleans. I'm anxious to get your thoughts, specifically what LZ is saying and what we just heard from the governor of New York.
Well, I completely agree with what LZ said, and I'm happy to be with Cornell, and I agree with his comments as well. Governor Cuomo's comments were very interesting. I appreciate his leadership. He tried to do a couple of things at once. One of them was appropriately to say that violence is never acceptable when you're hurting yourself or other people, and that is absolutely true. Mayor Bottoms in Atlanta, of course, Mayor Fry and Mayor Carter in Minneapolis and St. Paul are trying to get people to be calm and to be safe and to protest loudly and aggressively while not hurting anybody else. I think that's all fine. However, I think that Cornell and Governor Cuomo have raised the issue about what the initial incident of violence was in this particular case, dealing with George Floyd, which was completely unacceptable. But what LJ said about how long that has been going on. And Governor Cuomo did something very interesting. He went all the way back to the Admiral Lima case, which was in 1997, when an African-American man was sodomized by the police and it required 3 surgeries. And to LJ's comments, how long does it have to go on? White America is not really hearing what the African-American community is saying. And they are appropriately enraged and frustrated and tired of these things happening over and over again. And what was interesting about what the governor of Minneapolis said, of Minnesota, is the entire weight of the federal government is going to be brought to bear in quelling the violence that is on the streets. What the African American community wants to hear is that the entire weight of the United States government and all of its people are going to address the deficiencies in the design of our institutions that have produced the conditions that we have today. And unless and until that happens, until justice prevails, there cannot be any peace. And justice is not just quiet. It's just not the absence of something. It's the presence of everybody being treated fairly and justly. And unfortunately, in this country right now, and this is what Governor Cuomo did, I thought, well, he tied together the pandemic and the disproportionate impact that it's having on the African American community with the pandemic of racism that's been with us for a very, very long period of time. And until this country confronts that, acknowledges it, says I'm sorry, and then says I am committed to changing so that we all can be better, we should not be surprised that the normal that was talked about before, that produced what we have today, will continue to be. And I don't think we can wait anymore.
Well, let me get Mark Moore.